Well, this is the third message in a four-part series that I've been sharing that I call No Matter What. What do I understand about the experience of God, the sacred one, no matter what? No matter what occurs in my life, if I can remember four basics, I'm convinced that my life will be full and there will be nothing that will overwhelm me. Once again, here are the four basics as I understand them. The first one is, no matter what, God loves me. The second, no matter what, God seeks me. The third, no matter what, God gives me another chance. And the last, no matter what, God uses my gifts. To understand the third, no matter what, I'm proposing that we go to the expert, Simon Bar-Jonah. Simon, the son of Jonah, a.k.a. Simon Peter, perhaps better known to us as Peter. Poor Peter. He really is the kind of person only a Jesus would appreciate. The kind of person so set in his ways that change comes hard. The kind of person who seemingly messes up more than he accomplishes. If you remember, Peter was one of the original 12 followers of Jesus. Over the years of their relationship together, Simon Peter doubted and denied Jesus. He questioned the direction Jesus was going, even tried to lead the way himself. Because of his relationship with Jesus, Peter ate broken bread, had his toes washed, sloshed around on top of a lake, caught more fish than he knew what to do with, and most of the time didn't seem to have a clue who he was or whose he was. As far as healthy relationships and good life decisions, Peter did just about everything wrong that a human could do wrong. And yet, Jesus still wanted him to be a part of the kingdom that was at hand, God's realm that so many of us want to be a part of. Peter was as human in his humanness as we are, which means he made mistakes. Yet Jesus knew that while egregious mistakes were made, would still be made, there was still room for Peter in God's overall plan. Jesus had high expectations of Peter. You know about expectations. They provide a challenge that can cause one to grow, or they can put such a burden upon a person that it's almost impossible to live up to them. That burden can be imposed from without, like a job or relationship expectations. Or the burden can be imposed from within, such as thinking there are certain things that I have to accomplish in order to be successful or worthwhile. We all live in the midst of expectations, both reasonable and unreasonable. And they are imposed upon us from either within or without. Even more likely, imposed from both within and without. And now it seems to me expectations are neither good nor bad, just as feelings are neither good nor bad. It's what one does with those expectations, just as with feelings, where the difficulties enter in. How we respond to the plethora of emotions that rage in us is the true test. Let me suggest that it is how we respond to those expectations, not the expectations themselves, that cause us either to grow or become stagnated. Expectations are almost always the result of what in Buddhism is called wanting mind. This wanting mind is driven by desire, aversion, and anxiety. It creates an illusion of control in a world that is constantly changing and unfolds independently of how we believe it should. Philip Moffat, in his book Dancing with Life, wrote, "One distinction is critical for you to understand if you are to work with expectations. The difference between expectations and possibilities. Expectations assume a certain result and are future-based. They actually narrow your options, retard your imagination, and blind you to possibilities. They create pressure in your life and hold your present sense of well-being hostage to a future that may or may not happen. Expectations create rigidity in your life and cause you to react impulsively to any perceived threat to that future you believe you deserve." Moffat goes on, "When you're controlled by your expectations, you are living a contingent life. You cannot be free in the present moment. You cannot be happy with a beautiful sunset or with a moment of warmth between you and another. Instead, every experience is interpreted in the context of an expected future." Can you feel how enslaving this is to you? It would be one thing if, in fact, you could control the future, but is that really the case? I suspect not, says Moffat. To deny the truth of life is a fool's errand and is costly to your well-being. Now, in contrast to expectations, possibilities are based in the present moment, where you're alive to the mystery of life. You live as fully as you can in the present moment based upon your values, which reflect your preferences for the future. But you do not assume that the future will come to pass because you realize that the future is unknown. Moffat also says that being open to possibilities acknowledges that what you may think you want changes with time, or that there is another future that will bring you equal or more happiness, or that the future may turn bleak, or that you may die before any future can unfold. Real joy, then, is that which is available to you right now. Living a life that is open to possibilities is more like a request, a prayer, or an act of witnessing your faith in life. Your well-being is not contingent on the future. Your mind is open and inspired in this moment. You therefore have more access to imagination and intuition. Your mind is clear and less reactive, and you make better decisions. You respond rather than react to life as it unfolds. Simon Peter was burdened by the expectations placed upon him from so many directions. Husband, father, business person, Jew, human, male, each of his roles, each of his identities were layered with expectations that were becoming burdens. You can guess at what he was telling himself. I got to catch more fish to sell, or I won't be successful. I've got to say the prayers right, or I won't be acceptable in God's sight. I can't show any weakness, or people will think me less of a man. I'm not following God the way I should, so I'll try harder. And if there's any time left, well, I'll spend it with my family. Simon Peter was burdened, flat out, inundated with expectations, stressed to the limit. And what happens? Along comes this strange Pharisee, this strange character who we understand is Jesus. One more source of burden-causing expectations. Or at least that's what Simon Peter thought. It's just a shame that so much of the beauty of what Jesus was saying is lost in translation. We open our various Bibles and we read, "Your name is Peter, and I'm going to build my church on a rock." Big deal. It's good to have a church built on a rock so it doesn't fall out on the sand, right? It's a big deal because if you'd been Peter, you would have heard the expectation in Jesus' words. The Bible started out by people sharing stories, not unlike in the book Fahrenheit 451. The stories of the faith were memorized and passed down orally. At one point, the Old Testament was written down in Hebrew, and the New Testament was written down in Greek. The Greek in which these words were written would be heard as Petros and Petra. You are Petros, and on this Petra I will build my church. Still not quite the impact, huh? While the words were transcribed in Greek, Jesus usually spoke in Aramaic, Palestinian Aramaic. And the words for Peter and rock were the same. You are Kepha, and on this Kepha I will build my church. Think about that just a moment. Jesus saw potential in Peter, and Peter was caught up in an expectation. Peter, Kepha, will be the Kepha, the rock, the cornerstone upon which the church will be built. Jesus saw potential. Peter saw expectation. A cornerstone, as you probably know, is the most important block of a building. It's placed as the first stone in the foundation. Its orientation determines the stability of the rest of the structure. It often bears some information about when the building was built or who built it. Sometimes it holds a time capsule with information about the period in which it was built. To say that Peter would be the cornerstone of God's church is really acknowledging the potential of Peter. To say that Peter would be the cornerstone of the church is really acknowledging the potential of Peter. It's saying that Peter is precious indeed. It's saying that Jesus has placed such a trust in Peter that when built upon, Peter would provide the necessary strength and integrity to assure that the church would remain steady, strong. I got to tell you that Jesus saw something in Peter that no one else did. Not even Peter. After that momentous discussion, Peter went on to great moments of failure. The simple fact is that he messed up, and not just in some mediocre way. Peter, Kepha, the rock, the very cornerstone of the church, denied that he knew Jesus. Not once, but 3 times. That's going to leave a mark. You would think that would be the end of Peter's career. Not many bosses hang on to employees that mess up in such a big way. But no matter what, God gives us another chance. God gave Peter another chance. After all the times of failure, God, through the person of Jesus, still wanted Peter to be remarkable. I resonate with Peter. To put it simply, I too have messed up. I have at times needed a second chance, and a third and a fourth, and probably a fifth. There have been those moments. There have been those moments when I thought God was counting on me, when I thought God had expectations of me, and I failed miserably in those expectations. But of course, I saw them as expectations, and God sees them as possibilities. Can you hear the distinction? That's why I can say without equivocation, no matter what, God gives me another chance. And of course, if God will give Peter another chance and God will give me another chance, then no matter what, God will give you another chance, because the Holy One knows the potential that you are. Wants to embrace the potential that you are. God has created each of us to be worthwhile. God has created each of us with eternal value and unlimited potential. We don't have to compare ourselves with others. We don't have to prove that we are somebody. God's already established that by creating us in God's image. We don't have to tear others down to build ourselves up. We are built up by God's grace. We don't have to search for love in all the wrong places. We are infinitely loved by God. So let me share with you the good news that I've heard, that I understand to be true no matter what. While you may have been cast aside as a worthless pebble by some, or used by others as a destructive stone, God has chosen you for other purposes. You are the cornerstone of a brand new world. You are the chosen living rocks that make up the foundation of the faith. You are the kephas that God has chosen to be the kepha. For what purpose a stone is chosen makes all the difference. And God has chosen you. As Peter writes later out of his own experience, you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people belonging to God, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into this wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you'd not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. No matter what, God gives you another chance. Just a thought.